Stay frosty and head over to EasyMut.com for the cheapest MUT coins on the market. And when I say cheapest, I mean it. We're talking 1 million coins for around 40 bucks. Use code DIRECTOR for 5% off. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director, Chargers fans. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the most underrated Chargers players going into the 2021 season. Now, I don't know about you guys, but oftentimes as a Chargers fan, I've noticed maybe a little bit of a lack of respect or attention paid to some of the better players on this team. And for the longest time, for me as a fan, I think that subject was about Philip Rivers. Whether it be PFF, other news outlets, maybe even just my friends at the bar, people just didn't recognize how great of a quarterback Philip Rivers was for the San Diego and Los Angeles Chargers. To me, he's a clear future Hall of Famer, but some people really didn't see that. Now, that's probably a bit of a dramatic example, especially as to what we're going to get into in this video, but there still are Chargers today on this roster that I think people aren't paying enough attention to going into this season. Joey Bosa, I would say, is a pretty good example. I have seen him being mentioned more and more often and maybe like top, defensive players in the league, but there's a lot of other players that maybe are coming back from injury, maybe haven't really stepped into a featured role that people should be paying more attention to. So before we do get started, guys, I actually want you guys to pick a player that you feel is criminally underrated, maybe even by me. I cover the Chargers very, very often. Please put that name in the comment section below. We'll show that player a little bit of love. Now, before we kick this video off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Help us battle that YouTube algorithm. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. My top 10 most underrated Chargers players going into the 2021 season. This should be good, guys. It's a brand new season, brand new head coach Brandon Staley, brand new schemes on both sides of the ball. And honestly, I feel like this team has a lot of potential. To me, I feel playoffs, man. I feel like this team is as capable as any to make the playoffs this season. And these players, I think, are going to be a big reason for that. Now, at number 10, we'll make our way up to number 1 is Derwin James. I feel like a lot of people still do respect the name of Derwin James. They understand the kind of value he brings to a team, but I feel like maybe the casual NFL fan doesn't realize the gravity of the effect that a Derwin James can have on a Chargers defense. When he is healthy, we mentioned this several times throughout the year, he's a huge difference maker. He can take the ranking of this defense up a couple of notches just by himself. And I feel like maybe the memories of some fans are a little bit short. Of course, he hasn't played a full season since 2018, but my goodness, guys, you remember that year. We knew we had something special in Derwin James, and the injuries, the injury concerns, everything, the lack of luck on Derwin James' side has maybe caused some fans to forget that. I'm not really talking about Chargers fans. Maybe the casual, the overall NFL fan has forgotten how great of a player that Derwin James is. So his return this season, cross your fingers, knock on wood, prayer circles everywhere that he stays healthy. His presence on this team is going to make a huge, huge difference. Let's move on here to number 9. Brand new acquisition to the Chargers this season, as a matter of fact, and Jared Cook. I know, people, the situation at tight end for the Chargers, we were really, really hoping that we could keep Hunter Henry. And I hate seeing him in practice right now in that new Patriots uniform. But the reality of the situation is we have Jared Cook on this team. And maybe because his name isn't Hunter Henry, people are overlooking the kind of production that he can bring, at least at a short term, for the Chargers this season. Very long in the tooth. Definitely an older player, but what he found late in his career is dominance in the red zone. Okay, look at all the years, all the mileage on Jared Cook. But even then, man, last season 7 touchdowns. Before that, 9, 6. In this system that Lombardi's bringing over from the Saints, Jared Cook has found a lot of success, and the Chargers, specifically in the red zone, needed a lot of help. Hunter Henry in his best seasons was scoring around 7 touchdowns. I think Jared Cook can step in and really help Justin Herbert in his second season, put up some points, especially in the red zone, and I think Chargers fans are going to be surprised at how productive a Jared Cook, even in his old age, can be for the Chargers this season. Next up at number 8, and this is a name I know some Chargers fans may not love of right now just because maybe didn't live up to expectations last season in Brian Bulaga. Now, I've looked into Brian Bulaga. I've seen there's a pattern with Brian Bulaga, okay? It feels like 1 year on, 1 year off. And I'm not saying that he's lazy or he just doesn't play to his full potential. It just really does come down to luck with his injuries. If you look at the seasons that he actually did play, high snap count, you'll see actually right here in games played, 10, 16, 14, 5. Yeah, there's been some injury concern in the past, but when he is healthy, he really is one of the better right tackles in the league, definitely above average in my opinion. And maybe because of last season, 10 games played, and even in those 10 games, not really on the field a lot. You'll see there at 38%. I feel like the Chargers fan base hasn't really seen the full potential of a Brian Bulaga yet, okay? And I feel like maybe this season, Corey Linsley coming in, we got a lot of really great offensive linemen that really do complete this line this season. I think Brian Bulaga is going to remind people why he was one of those top priorities for the Chargers to sign in free agency last season. Next up, let's go here to number 7. I feel like this is a fan favorite, but maybe a lot of people don't really, recognize the name or understand his impact on the Chargers when he was playing, and Drew Tranquil. Okay, Drew Tranquil, nothing if not consistent. A lot of people were excited about him in his rookie season, but of course, just like Derwin James last season, 1 game played, I think even snapped, 1 tackle, and he was down. You guys take a look at his 2019 season, absolutely fantastic, and I feel like his presence back on this defense is going to help a lot. The presence of Derwin James and Drew Tranquil is going to elevate this defense dramatically. We just need to hope and pray again that they do stay on the field. But when he's on the field, Drew Tranquil is certainly a difference maker. Specifically, I would say in this new system that's being brought in, 3-4 defense, you're going to need some very competent middle linebackers, and I feel like Drew Tranquil is definitely up to the task. Next up at number 6, I would say a truly underappreciated individual because he has been serving as a career backup in Justin Jackson. Now, Justin Jackson, we've brought him up several times over the past few weeks. The one concern I have with him is availability. He has oftentimes been injured, but we have seen so many flashes of brilliance from Justin Jackson. A game that just comes to mind, spitballing here, is that game where he was coming in relief of Melvin Gordon versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Honestly, if health wasn't an issue, I could see Justin Jackson being a number 1 running back on another team in the NFL. I truly could. But it's the injuries that have certainly limited him at this point in his career. If he can really stay on the field and mix in there with Austin Ekeler more often than not, I think we do have currently on the roster a running back that can handle that combination, that number 2 job. We just need to make sure we feel confident that he's going to stay on the field. So I think Justin Jackson in his time, what do we have here? 4.1, 6.9, and 4.6 yards per carry. Specifically here in 2019, 6.9 yards per carry. Absolutely insane. I think he still has that potential, and I hope to see more of him in 2021. Next up at number 5, halfway through the list, this player I think is criminally underrated, maybe even by Chargers fans a little bit because of how important his role is to this defense. His name is Linval Joseph. Okay, over the offseason, I saw maybe a little bit of chatter about him getting released from the team. Of course, standing next to one man who did unfortunately made it to his way to the Raiders in Casey Hayward. Linval Joseph, however, I think solved a tremendous problem for this Chargers defense. In run defense, Chargers fans, how often have we seen the Chargers get absolutely ran on for days? Of course, we did see that game last season with the New England Patriots, maybe an off day even for Linval Joseph. I'm not even sure if he was playing that day. That was a really, really bad game. Either way, Linval Joseph brings a lot of value to slowing down the run. We don't really have a defensive tackle of his caliber, the kind of run stuffing, huge big boy in the middle. And I think his health is very, very, very important for the Chargers in 2021. I was honestly hoping to see a man of his kind of archetype be drafted at some point in this season, but still, Linval Joseph, how important he is to this line, especially at nose tackle in a 3-4 defense, is going to be very, very important this season. And I think he definitely is one of those underrated players that does exactly that in the league. And the Chargers really going to lean on him heavily this season. Next up at number 4, we've talked a lot about this player, Uchenna Nuosu. Lots of expectations, I would say, for him this season. I think Chargers fans definitely recognize the talent behind that name. We've seen him flash, especially, again, we always bring up that game versus the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. But we just really didn't see a lot of opportunity for him to show us everything that he's got. And this is the first time where I feel like he's going to be that featured pass rusher, opposite Joey Bosa. And I really do feel like the casual NFL fan, the league as a whole, is going to understand how valuable a player like Uchenna Nuosu is as he steps into that role. And again, when he's been on the field, he's been pretty dang good. 3, 3, and 4 starts under the Anthony Lynn system. I feel like he was criminally underutilized. And in those moments, he put up some pretty decent numbers, specifically last season, 4.5 sacks for very limited usage. I'm excited to see his potential this year now that he's going to be more of a featured defensive player. Next up at number 3, and honestly, I'm kind of shocked. These next 3 players I'm kind of shocked to even see on this list. Austin Ekeler. I think I bring up this name more in the terms of fantasy football. I often, every single year, I don't know why Austin Ekeler doesn't get drafted higher than he is, specifically in PPR, man. Points per reception. Austin Ekeler. We talked about Justin Jackson, his effect on the ground game. I think Austin Ekeler, his effect through the air, is very, very unique, and there's really very few players in the entire league that can do what he does. This season specifically, with Lombardi coming in from the Saints, a lot of exposure to a player like Alvin Kamara. He knows how to utilize a player like Austin Ekeler. Very efficient through the passing game, very decent on the ground. Take a look at this man's stats, guys, throughout his career. I honestly don't know why people don't pay more attention to Austin Ekeler at this point. Of course, on the ground, pretty efficient, 4.6, 4.2, 5.2. He's been pretty decent, but not putting up the craziest of yardage. Through the air, however, guys, the 54 receptions from a halfback, 400 yards, 900, almost 1,000 yards in 2019. I fully expect to see numbers like that come back in 2021. Austin Ekeler should be one of the most unique weapons in the NFL, and honestly put up a lot of yards and help Justin Herbert convert as that safety valve sort of player. And honestly, it's Austin Ekeler. Why aren't people talking about Austin Ekeler more? He's not a Derrick Henry, he's not a bruiser back, but he's definitely one of the best, if not the best, receiving back in the NFL. At number 2, like I mentioned, kind of shocked to see his name on here, Justin Herbert. Now, Justin Herbert, last season, I feel like to a majority of the NFL fan base, won a lot of respect. Offensive Rookie of the Year, the best rookie quarterback the NFL has ever seen. And yet I still do see some doubters out there, which is kind of crazy to say. Justin Herbert, I feel like, will always be the guy who proves the doubters wrong. He has to be the man that proves the doubters wrong. And I think it's because a lot of people are expecting maybe a sophomore slump this season. Maybe he doesn't live up to the expectations he set last season. To me, Justin Herbert, the only way to go is up. I understand there's been quarterbacks in the past that had tremendous rookie seasons and then really dipped off. I'm looking at you, Baker Mayfield, but this is a completely different circumstance. The Chargers, especially where it comes to aiding a quarterback in his production, got way better. Offensive line dramatically improved. Wide receivers, they went out and drafted Josh Palmer. I think they're going to bring in a more balanced offensive scheme with Joe Lombardi. I feel like Justin Herbert, his potential is sky high going into the season. As a matter of fact, I hope nobody from my league is watching. He's definitely somebody who you should be targeting in fantasy football, because they're going to be leaning a lot more on the pass than they did last season. At least they're going to be planning to use the pass more than they did last season. Run, pass, a thing of the past. Going into the future, it's Justin Herbert and his potential to move the ball through the air. It's incredible to me that there still are some people that don't understand the potential of Justin Herbert. I think this season he's going to prove once again a lot of doubters wrong. And at number 1, I think you guys know where I'm going with this, right? At number 1, the most underrated Chargers player on this team going into this season, and maybe for the last several seasons dating back, it's going to be Keenan Allen. Holy cow, man. The debate of top 5 wide receiver in the NFL has never been more real to me. I see lists all the time on Twitter, on social media, talking to my buddies. Why isn't Keenan Allen's name brought up more often as one of the best wide receivers in the league? Is it because he's not the flashiest player like a Tyreek Hill, not a highlight player like DeAndre Hopkins? Keenan Allen is the definition of consistent. Take a look at his stats for the past several seasons. Oh my goodness. Almost 100 receptions for the last 4 years straight. 1,000 yards. Of course, last season, new quarterback, new scheme, maybe a little bit less in the yardage. More touchdowns, however. Keenan Allen is constantly flying under the radar for some reason, and I honestly do not know why. The numbers speak for themselves when it comes to the topic of Keenan Allen. And I think us as Chargers fans, super lucky to have him on this team. Maybe he was just mislabeled early in his career as somewhat injury prone, and we've since then learned that that's definitely false. Keenan Allen, to me, for the past several seasons, criminally underrated, flying under the radar. Super grateful to have him on this squad, and I hope that he does finally find the respect that he deserves as a top 5 wideout in this league, perhaps even top 3. So in the comment section below, let me know what you guys think about this list of underrated Chargers players going into the 2021 season. Again, I invite you guys to list players that maybe weren't listed on this video. Joey Bosa we named early in this video as maybe like an honorable mention. I've seen him getting mentioned a little bit more often than not. There's certainly other players that definitely could be mentioned, like a Kenneth Murray. Maybe people aren't paying enough attention to him. Nasir Adderley, who could definitely break out this season. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Hit that like and sub button on your way out if you did enjoy this content. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty.